From today's perspective, times might seem to have been simpler then. But simple or not, nothing came easy. Days were filled with back-breaking physical labor, and everyday chores were accomplished without the help of modern conveniences.
The greatest survival knowledge in American history did not disappear thousands of years ago. It vanished within living memory. Just 100 years ago, ordinary families could preserve food without electricity, predict storms before they arrived, find water beneath dry ground, and store enough supplies to survive an entire year without a single trip to a store. They built communities where neighbors raised barns in a single day and passed down living bread cultures older than some nations. From underground root cellars to century-old sourdough starters, the lost world of self-sufficiency is far more remarkable than most people realize. What makes this loss so striking is the timeline. These were not ancient mysteries buried by centuries of change. Many of the men and women who performed these skills daily are within 2 or 3 generations of people alive right now. Your great-grandmother canned 400 jars of food every summer. Your great-grandfather could read a horse's posture, a cloud formation, and the behavior of his own chickens. And that knowledge kept his family fed, warm and alive through every season. The speed at which that world disappeared is one of the most underreported stories in American history. These are the 15 forgotten farm skills every single American knew 100 years ago. Today, we bring them back. Number 15, banking the stove fire overnight before thermostats, before pilot lights, before any of the invisible systems that keep modern homes warm through the night, without a single human thought. Every farm wife in America knew the exact art of keeping a fire alive from sundown to sunup without burning the house down. She waited until the evening fire burned down to a deep bed of red coals, raked them into a tight pile at the back of the firebox, covered them with a thick layer of ash, her own ash, saved specifically for this, and closed the dampers down to a whisper. Not shut, a whisper. Enough air to keep the coals breathing, not enough to let them flare. The difference between those two states was a quarter turn of a cast iron handle, a feeling learned after the first 3 winters and never forgotten again. By 4:30 in the morning, those coals were still glowing underneath the ash, ready to catch fresh kindling in seconds. A box of matches cost about a nickel in 1925, but striking matches every morning in a cold kitchen wasted time a farm family did not have. Get it wrong and the fire died. No coffee, no breakfast, no hot water before the men headed to the barn in January cold. Get it right, and the kitchen was already warm when your feet hit the pine floor. The last generation who banked fires every night as a matter of routine is almost entirely gone. Number 14. Reading weather by animal behavior. Farmers in 1925 did not have the Weather Channel. They had cows, chickens, swallows, and ants. And they knew how to read every one of them with a precision that modern meteorologists have since validated and published. Cows lying down together in the pasture meant rain within hours. Chickens staying on the roost past sunrise meant a storm system moving in. Swallows flying low, feeding close to the ground where insects were being pushed down by dropping barometric pressure, meant rain was coming before nightfall. Ants sealing their hill entrances with tiny plugs of soil meant a wet spell of several days. Pigs carrying sticks and building nests meant wind. Each signal was specific. None of them were guesses. They were observations refined across hundreds of harvests and codified into knowledge, precise enough to stake a year's income on. These were not superstitions passed down by people who did not know better. Animals genuinely sense barometric pressure drops before humans feel them. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administrations has published papers confirming that livestock behavior reliably predicts short-term weather. A farmer who could read his animals could get 3 days of cut hay into the barn before a downpour ruined it entirely. In 1925, a wagon of wet hay represented $60 in lost winter feed. The man who trusted his cows over the color of the sky ate beef in February. Number 13, candling eggs. Every farm child knew how to hold an egg up to a candle flame in a dark pantry and read exactly what was inside. Without cracking the shell, without guessing, without sending a rotten egg to market, and losing a contract that fed the family. Fresh eggs glowed a clear, warm amber with a small air pocket at the wide end. Old eggs showed a large, wobbly air sac that had grown as moisture evaporated through the porous shell over days and weeks. Fertilized eggs that had been sitting too long under a hen showed dark spots or spidery red veins of early development. A bad egg looked cloudy and gray, a smell waiting to happen. The skill took 10 minutes to teach a 7-year-old and saved real money every single week. A dozen eggs sold for about 35 cents in 1925. A farmer who shipped rotten eggs to the grain elevator lost his reputation. And in a county of 300 farming families, reputation was credit, contracts, and neighborly goodwill combined. City women paid a full cent more per dozen for candled eggs from farms that did the careful work. Today, supermarket eggs are machine-candled by the millions at processing speeds no human hand could match. But the knowledge of what to look for, the specific visual language of a living egg, has disappeared from nearly every American household. Number 12, hog butchering. In November, when the first hard frost arrived and stayed, that was butchering day. The whole neighborhood came because no single family could do it alone. Not properly, not efficiently, not in the time the cold weather allowed. A hog butchered in warm weather spoiled before it could be properly salted and smoked. The cold was not just convenience. It was a functional requirement of the entire process. A 300-pound hog was dispatched quickly, bled out completely, then lowered into a scalding barrel at precisely 145 degrees. Hot enough to loosen the bristles but not cook the skin. It was scraped clean from end to end, hung from a gambrel through the tendons of the rear legs, gutted with a single long cut, and broken down entirely within 6 hours. Nothing was wasted. The bladder became a child's ball. The feet became pickled trotters. The head became head cheese. The intestines were cleaned and packed with seasoned sausage meat. A farm family butchering 2 hogs each November provided nearly all the meat they would eat until the following year. A precision that came not from management but from memory. Same steps executed in the same farmyard across generations. Small batch butchered pork aged in a cold smokehouse has a depth of flavor that industrial processing cannot approach. Chefs at high-end restaurants now pay 3 times the market price for it at farmers' markets. Number 11, salt curing a ham. The hindquarters from November's butchering became Christmas ham 12 months later. If the curing was done right. If it was done wrong, the ham rotted in the smokehouse and 100 days of work was lost. There was no middle outcome. Either the salt penetrated to the bone in the first week, or bacteria found the joint before the salt did, and everything was gone. Wife rubbed each raw ham thoroughly with a cure mixture of salt, brown sugar, black pepper, and saltpeter, potassium nitrate. Working the mixture deep into every surface, and especially around the bone joint, where bacteria entered first. She packed the hams into a wooden box, covered them with more cure, and turned them every 3 days for 6 full weeks. The salt drew moisture out of the meat, creating an environment hostile to bacteria. The sugar fed beneficial microorganisms that built flavor. The saltpeter kept the meat pink and, critically, inhibited the growth of Clostridium botulinum. After 6 weeks of curing, the hams went into the smokehouse for 2 more weeks over smoldering hickory, then hung in the cool cellar for 9 months to a year, developing a hard, dark rind on the outside and a deep ruby interior that grew more complex every month. A proper Virginia country ham today sells for $150. In 1925, every Appalachian farm produced a dozen of them each year at no cash cost whatsoever. Number 10, building and running a smokehouse. Most farms had a small square outbuilding behind the main house, 8 feet on each side, dirt floor, iron hooks driven into the rafters, and a door that sealed tightly against insects and weather. The principle on which it operated was simple, ancient, and extraordinarily effective. The fire never touched the meat. A trench dug outside the building channeled cool smoke in at temperatures between 85 and 100 degrees. Warm enough to penetrate the meat with smoke, cool enough that it hung and absorbed rather than cooked. The farmer tended that fire constantly for 2 full weeks, checking every 4 hours, never letting it flare into open flame, never letting it die to nothing. Pine and cedar were absolutely forbidden. The resins they released, when burned, produced compounds that turned meat bitter and inedible. A cool smoke method using smoldering hardwood produces over 200 distinct flavor compounds in cured meat. Modern electric smokers, burning wood pellets at higher temperatures, produce approximately 40. The difference is not subtle. It is the difference between food that is merely safe and food that is genuinely extraordinary. Number 9, rendering. Lard. After hog butchering in November, the fat had to be transformed into cooking grease that would keep at room temperature through the following year without spoiling. The farm wife cut the leaf lard and back fat from around the kidneys into half-inch cubes, dropped them into a heavy iron kettle with a small splash of water to prevent scorching, and cooked them low and slow for 6 hours. The fat cubes gradually released their oil, shrank into crispy golden cracklings, strained through muslin into stone crock pots, and sealed while still warm. 100 pounds of hog yielded approximately 30 pounds of lard, enough to fry, bake, and season nearly everything a family ate until the following November. Modern nutrition science has reversed completely on lard. The Harvard School of Public Health confirmed in 2017 that traditional rendered lard is lower in saturated fat than butter and contains significant monounsaturated oleic acid, the same heart-healthy compound that makes olive oil valuable. We spent 60 years being told lard would kill us. Our great-grandmothers cooked with it every single day, made it themselves from animals they raised. Number 8, making lye soap from wood. Ash's every farm had an ash hopper in the yard, a V-shaped wooden trough where hardwood ashes from the kitchen stove were collected throughout the winter. In spring, the farm wife poured rainwater slowly through the accumulated ashes and collected the potassium lye that dripped out the bottom, strong enough to dissolve a chicken feather in under a minute. She tested the concentration by floating a fresh egg in the solution. If exactly a quarter-sized circle of shell showed above the surface, the lye was the right strength for soap making. Too strong and it would be caustic. Too weak and the soap would not set. She mixed it with rendered lard in precise proportions and stirred constantly until the mixture thickened to the consistency of pudding. A stage, soapmaker's call trace, then poured it into wooden molds lined with muslin. 6 weeks of curing later, she had a full year's supply of soap for laundry, bathing, floor scrubbing, and dishwashing. A bar of store-bought ivory soap cost a nickel in 1925. A farm family used 50 bars a year. Making their own saved $2.50, nearly 3 full days of a farmhand's wages. The ash hopper stood in every farmyard in America for 200 years. Almost nobody alive today could identify one in a photograph. Number 7, preserving eggs in water glass. Chickens lay heavily in spring and slow dramatically in winter when the daylight hours shorten. Before refrigeration, that seasonal gap was a serious and practical problem. The solution was sodium silicate, sold at the general store under the name water glass, a thick, syrupy, slightly amber liquid that cost 30 cents a quart. The farm wife sterilized a 5-gallon stone crock, mixed 1 part water glass with 9 parts boiled and cooled water, and submerged clean, freshly laid eggs into the solution with the pointed end down. The sodium silicate sealed the porous shell completely, preventing both evaporation and bacterial entry. 1 crock, 1 afternoon of work. 15 dozen eggs waiting in the cellar. Eggs stored this way in April were pulled out in January indistinguishable from fresh, clear whites, firm yolks. During the Second World War, the USDA officially recommended this method to home cooks dealing with wartime rationing and distribution challenges. It remains legal and effective today. A small revival has started among homesteaders who have rediscovered it through old farm manuals. Number 6. Making sauerkraut in stone crocks. Every German, Czech, and Polish family on the American prairie made kraut by the crockful in September, when late cabbage came in heavy and the weather turned cool enough for fermentation to proceed slowly and safely. This was not a niche ethnic tradition. It was widespread, practical, and, as scientists have since confirmed, genuinely superior to any commercial alternative available today. 50 pounds of cabbage, shredded thin, went into a 10-gallon stone crock with 3 tablespoons of pickling salt per 5 pounds. Each addition was pounded down hard until the salt drew enough juice from the cabbage to cover everything in its own liquid. A clean plate weighted with a smooth river stone kept the cabbage submerged. A cloth tied over the top kept insects out. Within 4 to 6 weeks, the transformation was complete. Sharp, sour, stable sauerkraut that kept through the entire winter without spoiling. The lactobacillus bacteria responsible are the exact strains that modern probiotic companies now encapsulate and sell for $30 per bottle. The Mayo Clinic published research in 2019 confirming that traditionally fermented vegetables produce better gut microbiome diversity than farm families ate sauerkraut 3 times a week all winter and were among the healthiest rural populations in American history. Number 5, keeping a sourdough starter alive. For decades, every farm kitchen in America had a crock of sourdough on the back of the stove, a living colony of wild yeast and lactobacillus bacteria, kept continuously alive for years, sometimes for generations. A pioneer woman heading west on the Oregon Trail carried her starter in a small wooden firkin wrapped in wool, feeding it flour and water every day through the journey, being used today at a bakery in Anchorage. Commercial yeast packets were not widely available in rural America until the 1920s, and even then, they cost a nickel per packet at a time when a farm family baked bread every other day. A free starter from your mother, or your grandmother made bread forever at no cost. Microbiologists at UC Davis sequenced samples from old sourdough starters in 2020 and found strains of yeast and lactobacillus that do not exist in any commercial culture currently available. The microbial communities in those old crocks were genetically distinct from anything produced by modern food science. Your great-great-grandmother's bread was, at a biological level, different from anything you can buy or bake today. That living culture, passed from hand to hand, crock to crock, generation to generation, was knowledge written in biology rather than words. Number 4, root cellaring for winter storage. A proper root cellar was not a hole in the ground. It was a precisely engineered environment, dug 8 feet deep into a north-facing hillside to use the Earth's thermal mass, lined with stone to hold moisture, fitted with a double door to create an airlock that prevented temperature swings, and ventilated through a pipe that allowed fresh air exchange without letting heat enter or cold penetrate. Without electricity, without machinery, the cellar maintained 34 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit and 85% humidity year-round through physics alone. Into that space, a farm family stored 300 pounds of potatoes in dry sand, 100 pounds of carrots, 40 heads of cabbage hung upside down from the rafters, bushels of apples wrapped individually in newspaper, stone crocks of sauerkraut and pickles, and wheels of cheese aging in cheesecloth. Everything lasted until April or May. Cornell University food scientists confirmed in 2021 that root cellar storage preserves more nutritional value and phytochemicals in root vegetables than any modern cold storage method. Because the slow natural temperature variation in a well-built cellar closely mimics the soil, conditions in which those plants evolved to store their nutrients through winter. The old-timers built the right tool without knowing the science. The science caught up to them eventually. Number 3, hitching a team of draft horses. Before tractors arrived on American farms in meaningful numbers, which was not complete until after the Second World War, a farm ran entirely on real horsepower. Hitching a working team of 2 Belgians or Percherons was a 20-minute job done every single morning, in the dark, by lantern light, in conditions that ranged from comfortable summer mornings to bitter January cold. The sequence was fixed and mandatory. Collar fitted first over the horse's head and seated correctly at the base of the neck. Hames set into the collar groove and fastened top and bottom. Bridle on, breast strap connected. Belly band buckled snug but not tight, breeching adjusted to sit level. Traces attached to the single tree. Driving lines run through the rings. Every strap in the right order. Every buckle tight but not pinching. A poorly fitted collar that pressed wrong on a horse's shoulder produced a sore by noon and put a $200 animal out of work for a week. $200 being close to a full year's wages for a farmhand in 1925. A farmer who could not harness his team at 4 in the morning, half asleep in February, was not going to survive as a farmer. A skill that defined agricultural civilization for 4,000 years, vanished from mainstream American practice within 30 years of the tractor ESA arrival. Number 2, raising a barn with the neighbors. When a farmer needed a new barn, when fire took the old one, or when a young man starting out needed his first real building, he did not hire a contractor. He sent word out through the county a month in advance, and on the appointed Saturday, 40 to 60 men from every farm within 10 miles showed up at dawn with their tools. The timber had been cut and cured weeks earlier. The foundation stones were already laid. What the barn raising required was the coordinated physical effort of dozens of experienced men working together through a single long day. Framing bees moved with an efficiency that came from every man knowing his role, because every man had done this before at his neighbor's farm and wouldn't need it done at his own someday. There was no foreman calling instructions, just men who had each done this enough times to know exactly where to stand. By sundown, a 30 by 40 foot timber frame barn stood fully framed, rafters pegged in place, roof sheathed. The women of every participating family had been cooking for 3 days. Pork roasts, fried chicken, 12 pies, barrels of lemonade, and the midday meal was a community event, as significant as the construction itself. No money changed hands in either direction. The following month, the labor was returned somewhere else in the county. Harvard researchers studying social capital have found that communities with strong mutual aid traditions show higher long-term economic resilience, lower rates of social isolation, and better outcomes across every measure of community health. The barn raising was not charity. It was the economic and social foundation of rural America. We traded it for cash transactions and have been paying the cost of that trade ever since. Number 1. Putting up a year's worth of food. In one summer, this was the master skill, the one that contained all the others, and the one that, if it failed, meant a family going hungry before spring. Every farm wife in America worked from April through October with one sustained goal: stocking the cellar with enough food to carry her family through the next 12 months, regardless of what weather, illness, or disaster might bring. The planning began in January. The garden went in as soon as the ground allowed, and from the first peas of June through the last apples of October, she canned, dried, smoked, salted, pickled, or fermented something every single day without exception. There was no vacation from this. There was no week off. There was the work or there was hunger, and the farm wife understood that distinction completely. 400 jars of vegetables, 80 quarts of fruit, smoked hams in the rafters, sauerkraut crocks in the corner, cheese wheels aging in cheesecloth. She knew exactly how many jars of green beans her family consumed between New Year's and Easter, because she had counted them the year before. She knew the yield of every row in her garden, the average weight of every cured ham, the number of crocks it took to get through February. The USDA estimated in 1925 that the average American farm family was 90% self-sufficient in food. Today, that figure is below 2%. We traded 1,000 years of accumulated knowledge for a paycheck and a drive to the supermarket. The question worth sitting with, quietly, honestly, is whether we could ever do the same. 15 skills, banking a fire so coals survive an entire night under ash, candling an egg against a candle to read what is inside without cracking the shell, curing a ham for 6 weeks, then smoking it for 2 more, then aging it for 9 months, until it becomes something that sells for $150 today. Building a barn with 60 neighbors and no cash changing hands. Putting up a full year of food with nothing but a garden, a cellar, and an iron will. The average American farm family in 1925 was 90% self-sufficient. Today that number is below 2%. We did not lose these skills to disaster or to war or to plague. We traded them away for convenience, one by one, season by season, generation by generation. And most of us do not even know what we gave up. Pick one skill from this list. Try it. Then tell us in the comments which one you chose. Subscribe. There is more forgotten knowledge waiting